What is up, guys? Zach here with Dr. Eyeball MD. Welcome back to the daily broadcast right here from the living room once again. And in today's video, I should mention, I'm an ophthalmology resident, medical professional, etc., 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 titles, credentials. Okay, let's get to the video. So what I'm going to do today is take this BuzzFeed quiz to see what Scrubs character I am. I haven't taken this yet. I haven't looked at the questions, so we'll do it together. And after we take the quiz, we will do 10 common medical school interview questions, the subtext underneath them, and what the questions are really asking. So if you're getting ready to apply to med school, we'll go over some common questions. Just so this is not an entirely entertaining video. Maybe it's entertaining the whole way, but at least we'll get something out of it in the end. But first, we're going to take this BuzzFeed quiz. We're going to find out what Scrubs character we are, or what I am, and then you can take it too. Before taking it, I think I'm either going to be JD or the Todd. I think it's going to be one of those two. I feel like I'm a mix of the two. So let's take the BuzzFeed quiz to see what Scrubs character we are. Okay, so all right. What's your favorite meal? Let's see. I like to go to a nice restaurant and be surprised with the chef's tasting. No, I'm a brunch kind of person. Steak and whiskey breakfast for dinner is chocolate milk, PB&J. Any and all kinds of cake. The life force of my enemy, just wine. Thanks. So I don't really like whiskey, but I'm going to go with steak and whiskey for the steak. Just for the steak. All right. Choose your Scrubs. So if I have the choice, I'll wear figs because I like the figs. I feel like it's going to try to sell me these Scrubs afterwards. I'm going to go with this one. The dark blue one for the guy. Okay, which song makes you get up and dance? I'm not going to know most of these. Single Ladies, Shake It Off, Shut Up and Dance. Anything by Sinatra? No. Motley Crue, I've seen them in concert. Les Mis, no. Icelandic yodeling, no, I did nothing. I'm going to go with Single Ladies, Beyonce. It's Beyonce, right? Okay. Do you have a lot of friends at work? Yeah, I think I'm friends with most of the people I work with in terms of the other residents. So we'll go with yes. Tons and tons of friends. Or at least I think they're my friends. Maybe they don't think that. What's your dream vacation? Touring Europe, chilling at a beach resort, sightseeing in Southeast Asia. Beach resort. Are you a confident person? I'd say I'm more on the confident end of the spectrum than insecure. Choose one of JD's fantasies. Floating head doctor. Literal deer in headlights. Macho man. The healing fawns. Pumpkin child. Old people love train chocolate. King baby berry. Floating head doctor. Oh, I'm the janitor. You're a wild card. Nobody ever really knows what you're thinking because that's none of their business. Sneaking into your brain like that. You'll mess with people and pull pranks just for fun of it. Also, you're convinced that the moon is just the back of the sun. Okay, I'll take it. That's not too far off. I'll be the janitor. Okay. Let's do some med school interview style questions and kind of go over those. Okay, so I'm just going to take this off of the perspectivedoctor.com. They have a whole list of questions here. There's like 30 questions, but maybe we'll just go through the first 10 or so. Okay, so the first question is, why do you want to be a doctor? So they're 100% going to ask you this in a medical school interview. You do need to know and have an answer to this. The subtext here, besides just why you want to do it, is, do you have a good reason for it, or is it something superficial? And also, do you know what it means to be a doctor? Have you had enough experience? Have you shadowed physicians? Do you know basically what you're getting into? So when you say why you want to do it, you need to have some perspective on what it means to actually be a doctor. So that's going to mean having shadowed, having talked to physicians, and gotten a pretty decent grasp of what the specialty is going to entail overall. And then you don't want it to be something superficial, like, oh, you're doing it for the money or prestige or anything like that. And that shouldn't really be the answer. even if that's a part of it. There should be some other compelling reason, because those things will not make you happy in and of themselves in medicine. Okay, let's go to the second question. Why would you be a good doctor? So this really just goes back to the same kind of subtext of the first question. Do you know what it means to be a doctor? Do you know what makes a good physician? Do you have any insight into that? And so basically, you're going to need to know what makes a good doctor, and then you can kind of speak to how you fit into that. So it's going to be things like being a overall compassionate person, and caring about people are kind of the main things. Don't just speak to intelligence or doing well on tests, or being really coordinated and thinking you're going to be a surgeon. All that stuff does not really translate all that well into being a good and successful doctor, at least from what I've witnessed. So don't touch on those things so much as you will, the more things that are based around character, having good character and integrity and being a decent person, because that's what's going to make you a good doctor. Tell me about yourself. The dreaded tell me about yourself. So they're not asking for a timeline of your life. You can mention those things briefly. I went to high school. I went to college here, blah, blah, blah. That kind of thing. I did this. My parents did this. But they really want to know, when they say tell me about yourself, is what do you value? How do you define yourself, essentially? And you shouldn't define yourself based just off of life events. You should define yourself based off of your personal values. And you need to kind of highlight those when you answer this question. When you tell someone about yourself, you're telling them the things you value, the things that are important to you. So keep that in mind. You're not just giving a laundry list or a timeline of events. That's not telling someone about you. They can get that off of your resume. To tell someone about yourself, you need to share something a little deeper, something a little more meaningful with them. That's the right way to answer this question, and that could be an entire video in and of itself. Okay, the next one is going to be, what do you do in your spare time? So what they're getting at here is, are you doing productive things? First of all, are you doing anything at all? Or are you watching Netflix and being lazy in your spare time? Or are you doing something productive, something geared toward medicine? Are you volunteering? Are you showing interest in the field outside of just the academic part of it? Because what you do outside of work will tell them, a lot about you. So have some compelling things that you're doing that are not just schoolwork, that would make them want to put you in med school. Maybe you're volunteering some, maybe you're working at a shelter, or you have worked at a shelter, and they'll ask you about your hobbies too and that kind of thing. And your hobbies don't all have to be based around medicine. They shouldn't all be based around medicine, but you should have some interest, at least in that kind of stuff, the volunteering, the research, medicine centered. But if they ask specifically for your hobbies, it can be, something else. But ideally, it would be something productive, something meaningful, maybe artistic, something like that. It shouldn't necessarily just be, chilling on the couch eating Pop-Tarts. So that's kind of what they're getting at. What are you doing in your extra time? Are you using it productively? Because you're going to have to be productive. You're going to have to be efficient in medical school. Okay, what are 3 things you want to change about yourself? You should have something in mind. You should have the insight to recognize that you're not a perfect, flawless human being. So don't just waver and not be able to think of anything, because everyone has some flaws. And so go ahead, before you ever get into the interview, and go ahead and identify some of your weaknesses, some areas that you could improve in. Don't pick things that are so detrimental that they cannot be fixed or would entirely exclude you from ever getting into medical school. So maybe don't say, I would rather not be a sociopath or a psychopath. If you are one of those, then you probably shouldn't be trying to go into medicine in the first place. But pick things that are things that you are working on or could be working on, and that someone else might point out if they were giving you constructive feedback. So pick things that you would change about yourself that can be changed, and that if they were changed would make you a better person, essentially. And don't try to get cute with this answer and start trying to kind of spin it into positive things about yourself. They'll know that is not sincere. So pick something that is sincere, that you truly think you could improve on, because everybody has something. And then if they ask you what your greatest strengths are, your greatest weaknesses, don't point for your greatest strengths. Don't point toward superficial things that essentially you have that don't involve any effort on your part. So while you could say, my greatest strength is my intelligence, I think it'd be a little stronger, more compelling in an interview setting to pick something that you have had to work at. And while you may have had to work the intelligence, pick something that requires kind of more hustle, more work ethic, and kind of speaks to your integrity as a person, your work ethic, and that kind of thing. So pick something like that as your greatest strength. So if you're a hard worker, I would say that before I would say my intelligence or something like that. It just speaks more to your character. Pick something here that speaks to your character is the underlying point when they ask for your greatest strengths, not just some sort of like God-given ability, because that'll show up on your test scores and things like that. And while you may think that it is a God-given ability, you'll probably find that a lot of other people are just as good anyway. So kind of try to highlight your character, because ultimately I think that's what people are looking for. Okay, what are your hobbies? We talked about that. You shouldn't just say things that are all revolved around medicine or make things up. Don't say that you can speak languages that you can't. Don't say that you can play instruments that you can't, because they may ask you to do that in the interview. I've heard of that happening. So say things that you're actually really interested in and that are in and of themselves interesting, because a lot of times the interviewers are really more interested in hearing about this kind of stuff, just because everybody sounds the same in every other regard. They're all smart academically. They've all done research. They've all shadowed physicians. They've all done volunteer work. But your hobbies can kind of be interesting talking points, and a lot of times the interviews will center around those things. So kind of actually give this one a little bit of thought, and have some hobbies outside of academics. You should, anyways. Make a YouTube channel and then make weird videos. And then what is your favorite book and why? Have an answer to this question. Think about what your favorite book is. If you don't have a favorite book, get a favorite book. Go read more books. If you don't have an answer to this question, it's going to come off like you don't even read. And you're going to need to be reading in med school. So definitely have an answer to this. And then your answers don't just pick a book randomly, that you actually like. Have a good reason for it, something about kind of the plot or the underlying message of the book that should, again, always tie it back into your values and your character. That's what you're essentially highlighting in this interview. You're not trying to sell yourself on your academic prowess or your research necessarily. You can mention those things, but I think it's a lot more compelling if you can kind of circle things back around to your character, to your values, and what you think is important in that regard, and that'll make for a more compelling interview. So that's 10 of the questions that you will probably encounter, at least a few of those in a medical school interview, and you'll probably encounter those in a residency interview as well in some shape or form. So think out some answers to those questions. If that was at all helpful, let me know. There's a bunch more questions. We can go over more. We can go over it in more depth. So let me know if that was valuable at all. Take the BuzzFeed quiz. Let me know what character you get. Hopefully I'm not the only one that's the janitor out there. I was hoping to be a doctor. But, oh well, I guess. So anyways, if you guys like this video, if you like this format of videos, let me know down in the comments below. I'm Zach with Dr. Eyeball MD. I will see you guys in the next video.